And welcome back to Property Mastermind Podcast, episode 10, with the world famous Bob Andersen, straight from down the hallway.
Oh, yeah, great to be here. Number 10, you're smashing them out.
I know. I've actually brought you forward a week. It was supposed to be just me this week, but I just thought I'd bring you in. Had a bit of feedback. Somebody asked a question and I thought, well, hey, get the big guy in.
Why not? Good to be here.
Hey, so remember we give away a coaching session. I give away a coaching session after each podcast and for the comments that come in and emails I receive. And this week goes to somebody that we know in our community as well.
Really? Who?
Nathan Seacombe.
Oh, Nathan. Congratulations.
Yeah, congrats, Nathan. So we'll be in touch. And you are the lucky winner of a coaching session with myself.
You are lucky, Nathan. Hillary will turn your life around, guaranteed. She did mine anyway.
Yes, yeah. I think it means that's a good thing.
It's a good thing.
So today we're talking about what makes a good development site.
Yeah. Well, somebody might say one that makes lots of money.
Absolutely. Everyone wants to make
That'd be a
lots
good
of money.
start.
It would be a good start.
It's not where you start, though. That's where you finish.
Yeah, I know. And there you go. Actually, before we address that, why don't we address the whole wood duck thing? Bob's famous word when he has workshops, he talks about wood ducks.
Wood ducks, yeah, I know. I've met quite a few wood ducks.
So a wood duck, if you don't know, he refers to somebody who doesn't know what they're doing.
Yeah, a silly person.
So
we meet quite a few in the world of property development from time to time.
Don't do their due diligence, buy a site, expect it to make money. It's never going to make money. They lose money and they're just known as a wood duck. They get to a certain point and they decide to sell it because they know they're not going to make money. And the only way they can get out of it is if another wood duck comes along to bail them out.
Quack. Another wood duck to bail out the first wood duck. And we see that happen sometimes.
Oh, my goodness. Yeah. It's hilarious.
Yeah, wood ducks. Oh, well, yeah, no, look, they're part of life in the property development world.
They are. Bob's famous for using the word.
Can't beat a good wood duck.
They always make for good stories. Have we got any wood ducks in tonight's podcast?
Oh, I don't know. I could probably find one if I think about it.
Yeah, we'll see what comes up, eh?
Yeah.
Well, okay, so here we are, episode 10, what makes a good development site. We started off with, well...
Where do you start? Like, if you're looking for a development site, you don't just jump on the horse and gallop out there and look at the first site you can find, do you? There's a little bit of housework, I think, a little bit of preliminary work has to go on first.
Housework, I like the way you use that. I think you mean to decide, find out what you can afford.
Well, that'd be a good start.
That would be a bit of good housework.
Don't go looking for an 8 townhouse site if you can only afford a duplex. And a lot of people don't understand what they can really afford to do. You know, they get all hyped up and all ready and, you know, out of the blocks, you know, like the 100 final in the Olympics, not really knowing, well, what can I really afford to buy? And so you need to get assessed.
Yeah, totally. You need to tidy up your bookwork and get your finances assessed and see how much you've got to get started. That's really number one step.
Yeah, a good when I say a finance broker, you know, with property development, the first part of the finance is like buying the site. But then later on, you're going to need more money to do the construction. So that can be a second type of finance down there. And so what you need is a good broker who can look at our whole deal and say, okay, show me your assets, your liabilities, what sort of capital you got, what you earn, your income and all that. Have a look. And they can work out pretty much what you can afford to buy as far as the site goes and whether you've got enough capital to go all the way. That's a good start.
And people, you don't always have to have enough to go the whole way. As long as you've got enough to buy the site, you're well on your way anyway.
Yeah, that's true. And look, we're not limited by the amount of money we own because we can use investors' funds.
Yeah. This isn't going to be about investors, though.
It's not about investors. But I'm just saying if you come up a bit short on funds, that's what you need to do. Yeah. And that's a solution.
Yeah, totally. So your number one, what makes a good property development site? Well, you've got to know how much you can afford to start with.
Yeah, and what do you want to develop? What type of development? You know, is it a land subdivision or you want to do townhouses or you want to step up on your first one and do apartments?
Or just straight into a splitter? The old basic step
Could
up.
be our favourite little 2-lot subby splitter.
How good.
Yeah, that's where property development starts, at the splitter and up from there. So that's got a bit to do with what you can afford to do, of course. I mean, if you can only afford to do, not only it'd be great. If you could afford to do a duplex in a particular area, then that's what you look for.
That leads me on to probably what people are really interested in.
Oh, what's that?
What's a good area?
Oh, a good area. Well, I like to head off knowing who my target market is because that's got a little bit to do with the area. And what I mean by that is, are we going to target investors or are we going to target owner-occupiers? Now, that doesn't mean that if you target investors, you can't sell to owner-occupiers or vice versa. That's not the case at all, but it's good to know what market you're going to target because that can have a little bit to do with where you do it. Like investors are driven by rentals. So obviously, if you're going to sell to an investor, the investor wants the property to rent well. Number one rule, has to rent well. Keep the investor happy. So what makes a property rent well?
And we think about where you, even if you're like unsure, like how you break that down simply, look where you live now. Are they mostly people who live in their own house or are they renting? And you can usually tell if it's a renting area. It's quite obvious.
Count the cars on the street.
Yeah, exactly. They stack them up. Yeah, so that's sort of a great place to start. But yes, you're exactly right.
So thinking about at renters, what do they want? Well, transport's a big thing.
They do.
And you know how I have a love affair with what?
Bob loves a good train station.
Can't beat a good train station.
He likes to be within walking distance of a train station if he's developing
particularly for investors.
Yeah, an investor property.
Handy for owner-occupiers, but particularly investors. What's my second love affair with? Have to be a bus interchange. Bit of a weirdo, I know.
Yeah.
In love with train stations and bus interchanges, but they've always worked really well for me when I've been targeting investors. Transport's a big thing. The cost of parking, car ownership, and multi-car ownership as well. Yeah, transport's big. Close to entertainment.
Yeah, like even like shopping or cafes. I mean, you know yourself, you're looking for something if you've looked for something to rent, it often says close to shops and cafes or close to schools. There's another one, schools. So entertainment and schools.
Yeah. Bigger one probably with owner-occupier schools. But the things, when I'm looking at investment, I'm thinking about transport, number one, maybe work centres, like hospitals, those sorts of things, hospitals, unis, they always make good investment properties. And a little bit different for owner-occupiers. Like owner-occupiers, you want it to be in a suburb where there is a majority of owner-occupiers as opposed to what I call a dormitory suburb. So I call a dormitory suburb, there's some suburbs that are just high number of renters. And nothing wrong with that. They're great for investment properties, but not necessarily great for owner-occupiers. And so an area that has a high percentage of owner-occupiers is good for developing for owner-occupiers. I mean, things like schools, particularly if it's in a school area that's an in-demand school.
Yeah.
Owner-occupiers, particularly obviously people with families, with kids, that can be a big thing. Transport too, but it's less so than with investors. I mean, I think owner-occupiers and investors like, the coffee club scene, the close to cinemas, all that sort of stuff, lifestyle.
Like us, walk down the road, have a coffee.
Yeah, well,
we're within 15 metres of about 5 cafes.
Yeah, 5 cafes and a boutique brewery.
Yeah, I know, not bad.
And a new ice cream shop.
Yes, brand new ice cream shop.
So yeah, we like lifestyle. We like beach.
Yes,
beach is always great. I mean, great. Talk about owner-occupiers, things like that.
What else makes a good development site? I know what doesn't make a good development site.
Tell me.
Flooding.
Oh, flooding. Oh, now you're getting technical.
Flooding makes it not good. It doesn't mean you can't develop it. It just means it costs a bit more.
Yeah.
Overland flow.
Overland flow. Yeah. Well, that can add a lot to the build cost because you have to build, let's say you're doing townhouses, you have to build them up in the air on a suspended slab where the water can flow underneath it without impeding it. And so that adds a lot to the cost. You did a great,
was that this week you did that deal or no deal?
Yep, deal or no deal.
That was we sent out to our whole database. Everyone got to see that. Wasn't just in the membership.
I'm not sure.
I think so.
I'm not in charge of marketing.
You might have seen.
Ask our marketing manager.
Bob does a deal or no deal for about 20 minutes, and he goes through a whole deal. That's so good. One went out in our email. I could actually put a link in the show notes to it. Actually,
you can
or put it on YouTube, and you can have a look.
If you love wood ducks, there's 1.5 wood ducks in that one.
Oh yeah, it's a good wood duck story.
Yeah, it's a good wood duck story.
About what not to do.
Yeah, so those good areas.
I tell you something else that we watch out for is being close to a train station, but not too close to the train tracks.
Not too close, yeah. Yeah, that's right.
When you're sleeping?
I was brought up not far from a train station, but
that explains a bit.
Yeah, but back in those days, when I was really little, they had chuddy trains, that used to go toot, toot.
Oh, did they? No, Bob.
Those sort of trains, That's a long time ago.
Oh, it is a long
Seriously,
time ago.
That was 18, whatever it was. Before Federation, anyway.
Oh, my goodness.
When I was quite young. Yeah, so.
Hey, what about, we were talking today about one of the people in our mentoring program, and he has a development site. So when we're saying what makes a good development site, well, He actually just bought a house to hopefully just have a lifestyle block for him and his family, and pretty much he's been told he has to develop it.
Well, it's more that I think he wanted to cut it into 2 lots. I think what he wanted to do, you're right, he bought it like a semi-rural block. I don't know how many acres it is, and with an existing house. I think what he wanted to do is renovate that house and then just cut the land into 2 lots, sell off the original renovated house, and then build a nice family home on the second lot.
Council wasn't up for it.
No.
They've turned it into a 13-lot subdivision, I think.
Well, they said it was an underutilisation of the site. And I've come across that. If a site has a particular development potential and you intend to develop it at a lot lower density, if you like, they can arc up on it.
Yes, what do they say? No, I'm sorry, you have to make more.
Well, they can. It's a bit of an argument. I've never actually taken it to court, but it can happen. We've seen that where property's been, let's say, zoned up, could be up for apartments. Somebody just wants to cut a block in half and just have 2 lots, but you might be able to do 15 apartments on the lot. And the council say, no, we don't want it just 2 houses, 2 lots. We want apartments. And
I think what's funny about Kyle's story is he got to that point and then he was told he had to do more, and then he approached us and he's like, oh my goodness, I'm really nervous. I'm like, yep. Bob's like, well, we can take you through this and talk you through it. And within how many weeks now he's like looking for more straight away?
I know. He started off, not like, I call him the accidental developer.
Yeah, he is the accidental developer.
Because he only wanted to cut a block into two lots. Now he's subdividing it into, about 13 lots, I think it is. So he's accidentally, sort of, been pushed by council into doing that.
And he's all excited now. He's looking for more straight away.
So the more time he spent with us, the more he learns. And now he's got the hunger. So, yeah, he's like, where's my next one? It's gone from a guy that was quite nervous.
Yeah.
A little bit nervous is good. Yeah. To wanting the next deal.
It's pretty exciting for that young family.
Yeah. So, there's a situation. That's a good site. Potentially could do a lot more than he originally wanted to do to it. But it's going to be a good thing.
What about zoning, Bob?
Pretty critical.
Pretty critical when you're looking for a good development site?
Well, yeah. And that gets back to what you want to develop. So let's just say you wanted to do a small townhouse project. Well, it has to be zoned for townhouses. If it's just zoned for single houses on single lots, it's not going to get there.
No.
So, zoning's important. If it's apartments you want to do, well, it's got to be zoned for apartments, townhouses. So, yep.
I think we've talked about before, where we are, there are a lot of apartments just in a certain area of the town that actually need redoing altogether. They need to be rebuilt. They're sort of aging quite badly, but they have to only be apartments now. They can't come down, and it's just not worth it.
No. It takes a long time before an old apartment block
is worth knocking over and
knocking
redoing.
Down. And not only that, you've got to get everybody to agree to it. You've got to get all the owners to agree, and that's like herding cats.
Oh gosh,
getting people to agree to something like that.
It's like family Christmas for a lot of people, isn't it?
Yeah. So,
getting everybody to agree.
But talking about the right sort of site, I'm not big on slopey blocks.
No.
I have done a few in my time.
I bet you have.
And probably halfway through wished I hadn't.
Yeah.
Because creates a lot of
What puts
dramas.
you off about a slopey site?
Well, they cost more to build on, which is not rocket science. Of course they do. But the thing is this, that it might be the right zoning. It might be really well located, but it's got slope. So it's going to cost you more to build. You don't get any more when you sell the townhouses, let's say. That's based on, standard of finish, their size, their locality. The fact that they're built on a slopey block, you don't get any more for them, but they cost you more to build. So the only way you can maintain your profit margin is to get a reduction on the land value. In other words, the land value has to be lower than, let's say, a block of land across the street that's flat. And a lot of people don't realise that. That's what you come up against, when you're looking at sites. I call them the mums and dads in a nice way.
Yeah.
They're just regular people. They don't understand property development and they come to sell their property. And fair enough, like anybody, you want to get the best price you can. And let's say they saw last week, keep it recent, across the road, somebody sold their 800.
It is 1st of August 2021.
Yeah.
Isn't it the 1st? I think it is.
I don't know.
So even this week, they saw this week, sorry.
So let's say the neighbour across the road sold their site for X dollars, 800,000, let's say. And then they say, okay, we're going to sell ours for 800,000 because we're just the other side of the street. It's the same size, but they've got a slopey block. And let's just say to build those 4 townhouses might cost us another 20,000 a townhouse. It's going to cost us 80,000 more to build them. We're not going to get 1 cent more when we sell them. So that 80,000 has to come off the price.
Yeah.
So with no other differences, The mum and dad site's worth 720, not 800. The one over the road was worth 800 because it was level.
It's flat.
Yeah. The other one over the road, the mum and dad's lot, 80,000 more to build the townhouse. The 80,000 has to come off the land value. Otherwise, you won't be able to make your profit run.
Because you always say that, eh? You can't go selling it and say, yeah, I'm really sorry, I have to add an extra 20,000 for this because it was slopey.
Yeah.
The buyer's like, no, we don't care.
No, they don't care, no. And you can say, I've got a really complex roof and I've got lots of hips and ridges and valleys. It costs me a lot of money. Can I get another $8,000 off you for the roof?
No.
Don't
care.
No. So that's another subject for another day is buildability. But that's, so I don't like slopey sites. I've done a few, trying to avoid them. The perfect site is either dead level or a very slight slope from the back of down to the road. That's where we're going to hook up the services, eh?
Yeah, exactly. I was going to say, do you want to explain why? Yeah, hooking up the services.
Yeah. Well, that's important. Stormwater and sewage particularly. We want to get a connection, and it can only flow downhill. It flows under gravity. So if it just slopes slightly to the road or slopes down, we can get our connection. That's good. Don't have to go through a neighbour's, don't have to go down the road to connect.
And it's not hard to go through a neighbour's. It's just extra and asking and there's just stuff involved.
Oh, neighbours.
I know.
Oh, look.
What is that? What's that terminology for neighbours who don't want you there?
NIMBYs.
NIMBYs.
Not in my backyard. They're people that object to your...
everything.
Object to everything.
They object to your everythings.
Yeah.
The NIMBYs.
I've done developments where I've had NIMBYs next door and they object to the development, But there's no real town planning grounds other than the fact that, when I came here 40 years ago, I didn't expect to have 4 neighbours. Well, you've been lucky you lasted 4 years with only one neighbour. Now you're going to have 4 when I do these 4 townhouses.
Yeah, congratulations. You got 4 lovely neighbours moving in.
Yeah, but it's funny because in a couple of cases I've seen, a few years later they go to sell their property.
The NIMBY's looking for you.
The NIMBYs go to sell their property. What do they sell it as? Potential development site. Why? Because it's worth more than their crappy old house.
Yeah.
They're only too happy for it to be a development site.
Yeah.
When they go to sell.
The old short-term memory.
Yeah, that works. But neighbours, I've had pretty good luck with neighbours over the years.
You've got some good strategies though about approaching them. You talk about how to approach neighbours to get them on side and stuff.
Well, you don't want to come on like the wealthy developer.
No.
It's good if you borrow a mate's car and rock up in a not too expensive car. And, but I mean, sometimes we have to go into a neighbour's property if it's the only way we could get, say, a sewer or a stormwater connection. The pipe happens to be in the neighbour's property. And I've had pretty good luck just being a regular guy and explaining, tell them what I sometimes do is tell them, I'm going to give you a new fence and you don't have to pay a cent. I'm just going to cover the cost on the fence. The reason being...
Everyone loves a new fence.
Everyone loves a new fence. But it's one of the conditions of your development approval is probably that you're going to have to put up a new fence around your townhouses and you can't charge the neighbours. But they don't know that. And so I say, I'm going to throw in a new fence for you. I'm not going to ask you for half.
Crikey. If anyone's listening and their neighbour just bought them a new fence, if they could share some of their stormwater.
I hope none of the neighbours to my next side are watching this.
Yeah.
But sometimes, it's just catch up, have a coffee. One time I was involved in a larger project. It's about 21 townhouses. The only way we could get the water out without spending a lot of money was to go through a neighbour's property. And there's a little old lady owned it. And I can remember, this is going back ages. I mean, this could be 20 years ago. And I can remember sitting in the little old lady's kitchen having cup of tea after cup of tea.
Talking her into it.
And talking about her parrot.
Oh, no.
And her cat.
Oh, no.
The parrot and the cat got on okay, thank goodness. And I would have been there 2 hours, just talking about things and, oh, yes, dear, and, just explaining, we didn't put this pipe here, but we're going to give you a lovely new fence. And, we're going to make the ground really good, just the same, make it just like it was, before, and we'll do it quickly.
What was her first name? Do you remember?
Oh, I don't know. It was an old-fashioned name.
Like Ethel or something.
Oh, Ethel or
Mabel.
Emily, maybe. Yeah,
it's not old-fashioned. It's trendy these days.
Well, it's trendy. No, they do. They like hula hoops. They keep coming back, old names. But I remember doing it. And look, it was fair.
Yeah.
And
you're not the sort of person to rip people off.
No. I mean, I just asked her if it would be okay. And
you just had to hear the parrot and cat stories.
Yeah. And it was all done over several cups of tea, And look, most of the time, I found neighbours pretty approachable. You get the odd one. But, I mean, that's life, Most people are approachable and good. You just get the odd one.
What about the area as in, like, a little bit less cheaper area? I'm not going to say it, like cheaper versus more expensive versus middle of the road. I know your favourite area. You're more, let's work in the middle of the road. Let's more work upper end there. That's your spot. But I know people that work in upper end And
Yeah,
have
so we're talking
great
about
success.
like the top end of the market, the expensive end of the market.
Hmm.
I tend not to go there too often at all. But as you say, we know people that do
Yeah.
and specialise in developing up. Look, in some
In
cases,
fact, I wrote her down. I wrote the wife's name down, and I was hoping to bring her on this podcast.
really, you
Yeah.
have to tell me who that is later. Anyway, I tend to work the middle of the market.
Yep.
Or the upper part of the middle, if you can define that. And look, that's going to be different everywhere you go. So there's no point putting a dollar value on it.
No.
Because every city is going to be different. But I'll tell you what I don't do. I don't develop in areas where the sale prices are low.
I'm going to tell you why. Because it costs the same amount of money to build there as it does to build in the mid-regions.
Yeah, yeah,
So it's harder to make your profit.
yeah, it is.
And it's harder to make it stack up.
Yeah, look, what consultants charge, what an
Everything's the
engineer
same.
or an architect charges to do all those consultants, all those professionals, what they don't charge by the suburb, they charge by the job. So if you're doing 4 townhouses in a really cheap area versus there's 4 townhouses in a lot better area, fees are all the same. Interest rate,
That's
money.
a really good tip that a lot of people don't get. I talked to somebody within the last couple of weeks, rang just to find out about the courses and stuff.
Mhm.
And they had bought in a cheaper area and they had to wait for about a number of years before it's getting close to working.
Oh.
And I got off the phone and I said to Bob, it's such a shame that people wait to get educated after they buy something. It was a wood duck.
That's an expensive education.
Yeah, because then we got talking about highest and best use, which I want to use as another podcast. But, it's not the highest and best use of your money if it's tied up all of that time and it could have been multiplying had he gone into another area and made that money multiply instead of waiting for it to crawl its way out of the
He could have
hole.
made a profit 3.5 or 4 years ago.
Yep, again and again.
And probably be into his third project
Yeah.
at a time when he's not even into his first one.
Yeah, it's a bit of a shame. That's a bit of a wood duck moment.
That is a wood duck moment.
Mm.
I've had people say to me, I'm going to develop in cheap areas because there's going to be a lot more people can afford it. Doesn't work. No, because like you were saying, it costs the same amount of money to build, a 160 square metre townhouse. All the professionals charge the same. The banks charge the same interest rate. The difference is there's only 2 differences: what you pay for the land and what you can sell it for. And it just doesn't leave a profit margin. And a lot of those areas, to actually make a profit, it's worth more as a house.
Yeah.
You just talked about highest and best use, alluding to it. It's worth more as a house, not as a development site.
Yeah.
That's what happens. That's a falsity to think that, just because more people can afford it, it must be a good thing. That's that whoever you're talking to found out.
Okay, so what have we covered there? We've gone with, first of all, what you can afford before you even start your development.
Yeah,
What else do we have,
very
Bob?
important. What are you going to develop? Are you going to do a little subdivision or some townhouses?
We talked about what?
Well, of course, that'll dictate the zoning,
Yes.
what we want to build.
Zoning, yes.
And I think knowing who your target market is,
That's right. Are we owner, occupier, or are we investor?
that helps to choose the right area.
We talked a lot about the investor market, as in that would be looking for being around universities, being around places of work, being around transport.
Don't forget
Bob's
my favourite transport.
the train station.
Bus interchanges, I'm getting excited.
We didn't really talk too much about if you're developing for the owner. Yeah. More specifically for an owner.
Well, I tend to make let's say a townhouse, just a little bit bigger and a little bit higher standard of finish than what I would do for an investor. It doesn't mean an investor wouldn't buy it. It doesn't mean an owner occupier wouldn't buy something for an investor. But it's good to know who you're targeting.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that helps with the location and helps you with the design and the fixtures and fittings as well. And of course, my favourite, not building on slopes, ideally.
No.
Or if you do, nothing wrong with building on a slope, but make sure that because it's going to cost you more, you have to get the land cheaper.
I think we drove past one, that one with the battens on. You pointed out your development site there. That was on a slope, wasn't it?
Oh, look, I have done a few on slopes,
Yeah.
but my feasibility is such that I had to get the land cheaper to compensate for the extra build cost. That's really what it's about. And a lot of landowners don't know that, and maybe some developers don't.
It's kind of weird. We were driving around and he'll be like, "Oh, I developed that. Yeah, I made that one there. Oh, see that back over there? Yeah, that's one of mine." I'm like, "Oh, that's pretty cool."
Well, if you've been doing it for 38 years, you'll find a few around the place.
Yeah, there's a few around. Yeah, true.
Yeah, so all those things make up ending up with a good site.
So, yeah, slopes, overland flow, check that. Not too much of a fan of the flooding.
We've got all those normal due diligence items that we've covered, getting service connections, those sorts of things as well. All important. There's a whole range of things, really.
But just making what makes a good one. That's actually another good point, that services aren't too hard to get to.
Got to get those connections.
Yeah, if the connections...
And if we have to go through a neighbour, it better be a friendly one.
Yes. Otherwise, there's a few cups of tea. And
lots of cups of tea, maybe bottles of wine. I've done that too.
I bet you have. Bottles of wine and cats and parrot stories again.
Anything you need, whatever you need to do.
Whatever you want to talk about.
Yep, that's the deal. You've got to get the neighbour on side. So lots of little boxes to tick. That's all part of, due diligence, I suppose, and that's another subject we could dig deep on one time, but they're the sorts of things, to look for on a good site.
The reason I wanted to have this topic today is because I got asked a question on the YouTube channel, and he said, how do I even know where to start? And I thought, here you go. What makes a good development site? There's a great topic. But if you have any other topics you'd like to email me and let me know that you'd like us to discuss, feel free to email them in.
Yep, that'll be great.
I think we've just about covered it off, Bob.
I think so.
Short and sweet.
Yep.
Quite useful. That's the name of the game.
That's the idea.
Well, everybody, I hope you did find that useful. Some good tips from Bob around what makes a good property development site. As I said, this week's winner of the coaching call is Nathan Seacombe. Woohoo, Nathan, in lockdown. So I'll be in touch because you're in New South Wales. So
you're in for a treat, Nathan.
And that's it from me.
That's it from me.
Catch you next time.
Bye.
Bye.